Welcome to another episode of Influencer Profits. We have an amazing guest with us today, Miss Vanessa Talbot. Vanessa, thank you so much. She is coming all the way from Australia with us. Now, Vanessa has been working with coaches for quite some time now, and she helps them really step into the spotlight, which is exactly what her program is, the stepping into the spotlight, helping coaches and change makers really get out there, be known, be able to attract clients, get their branding, their creation, everything on point. So I can't wait to hear what it is that you can share with us today. I know you have so much value. You've built an incredible community of over 17,000 people on Facebook, which is a huge congratulations and high five. And I can't wait to even hear about that some more too. So Vanessa, thank you for coming on here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, totally.
So, Vanessa, why don't you just give us the start, what you do, like, where did you come from? How did you get into coaching? How did you get into, really making people famous, essentially, biz? And just kind of give us that transition.
Well, I had a big business in the mining industry with my husband at the time. And then, multi-million-dollar company, designer shoes, holidays all the time, you name it. And then when we got divorced, guess what happened? Down. So the husband walked away with the company and I got the property, but it was like, I had a big horse property and everything. It was like, how the heck am I going to keep this lifestyle that I created? And I had no clue back then what a coach or a life coach even was. No clue. And this was about 8 years ago. And I was sitting there looking through a magazine and I saw an ad that said, be a life coach. And I thought, if I can stay at home and do that, because I didn't want to go out into 9 to 5. I'd never done 9 to 5. And, the idea, because I live on a country property, so the idea of having to drive, 20 minutes back and forward into town to go to work and all that sort of stuff didn't fit with me. So the old be a life coach ad, which I didn't even have a clue what it was, I went, okay, I'll do that. And that is essentially how I started coaching, because obviously I went and did the coach training and became a life coach as such. But then along the way, because I started, I wrote a book and I trained some of the bigger names here in Australia and that, I became a coach trainer as well. And that is when I realized we had a problem, because we had a lot of people going through the training facility, becoming coaches, spending a lot of money, and then getting out and going, here I am, clients, come for me. And nobody was coming. Nobody was getting clients. So wow. I thought, we got to do something about this. And at the time I was working with an Aussie celebrity and, on him building his it factor, his social media status, all that. He had hundreds and thousands of people following him, and he was getting invited over there to your land, to the States, to appear on Talk TV and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, what if we could apply exactly what we're doing with him to coaches so that they get to step out, get known, and therefore find it so much easier to bring and attract clients towards them. That's the journey, and it happened probably over 5-6 years.
Wow. So you were working with where you're doing the training of the coaches to be coaches. So let me guess, you went through the life coaching training, became the life coach, and then they're like, hey, would you like to be a trainer to now train life coaches? How did that go?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And it's just because I think, I had up more coaching hours and all the rest of it. So I was probably doing a little bit better than most of the coaches going through. And they say, you've got all these hours and you've done so much work and you're up there at master coach hours and that. Do you want to be one of our mentor/trainers? So yes, that's how
that's
it
awesome.
happened.
So that's really cool. So how did you build this following? Did you get do this stuff for you, and then you're like, hey, I got this group, and now all these people started joining this group, or I'm curious on how that got started.
Yeah, one of the things I get asked a lot about is the Facebook groups. And what happened was it's probably existed about 4 or 5 years now. But what happened when I decided to make the transition from just plain old life coaching and decided, well, I'm going to show coaches how to become public figures, bring their own celebrity status to it. Because I live out here on a country property, and there's no networking, there's no nothing. I mean, I practically live out in the middle of nowhere. And I have to do everything online because the town that I'm in is only small. There's no market there for me. So as a coach, I had to learn how to work online. And I just thought, well, if I'm going to work with the coaches, the best place is to build a community for them. And I was really lucky back in those days. I'm not sure if it's so easy now to build a Facebook group, I'd have to admit. But back in those days, I said it's about 5 years ago, I think I opened it up. We had 500 join within the first week of all coaches. And then we reached that 5,000 figure mark in 6 months.
Wow.
And since then, I slowed it down. My girl who does the actual, she's the one that lets them in the group or decides if they don't come in, because we're quite select about who we put in there. So we're not really concentrating and haven't been concentrating on growth as such, but more on keeping it active, engaged, and quality people in there. She said if she let everyone in that asked to get in, she said we'd be well over a 40,000 member group now. But that's not on what I'm aiming for. We have really defined what that group is about and who we want in there. So it's stuck around that 15 to 17,000 mark for a couple of years now, which is where we tend to keep it.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what are some of the things that you do or that you could maybe share to help, because all of our listeners, they are coaches, they're people who are out there really making an impact in the world. What are some things that they can do to really let themselves be known, that transition from like, hey, I'm just a coach, nobody knows me, to really stepping up into their power of like, here I am, I'm a public figure and I'm the one that can help you?
Yeah, the first thing I always say you've got to start with is knowing what that one thing is that you want to get known for, because nobody really knows the generics. Do you know what I mean? Okay, you might get a little bit of work, but you're not really going to stand out because you don't become that special person as such. I mean, if you look at some of our names like Tony Robbins, Personal Power, even Louise Hay, Heal Your Life with Affirmations. So it's about knowing what is that one thing that I can stand for. And you've got to start there. And that's probably the hardest step for many new coaches because they haven't even developed that yet. And yet, sadly, it's the one place that you need to start to really start to build and get known. So that's where I always say, start with what's the one thing that I can go on and on and on about.
I find that it's like with us, it's like, I'm like when you say one thing, I'm like, we have two things. And I'm like, to pick one is so challenging because we're really great at helping people put together their like course and like really structuring those foundations for that. And then we're really good at the like what we call the FYA funnel. And so it's basically like how to create processes to overcome objections and get people to, get a really deep connection with us or whoever our clients, and then be able to get them kind of qualified to get on the phone with us.
So by the time they get on the phone, it's like, yeah, we love you. Like, of course we want to work with you.
Yeah, and that's how anyway, so it's like, when you said that, I'm like, man, one thing. It's challenging. So
but what you're doing there, it can be under the umbrella of one thing. So if you were to say, what's that one word or one kind of thing that I'm doing here with these two parts?
Yeah.
And then you've got your one thing. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I do a couple of different things slightly as well, So I say, okay, I just get coaches to get out there and get known so that they attract clients. But under that umbrella are little tiers of things that I do. So, I have the Facebook group course to show people how to start a Facebook group. We have media, we have confidence building, all those different aspects.
Nice.
But they sit under that top umbrella, and you'll probably find yours has got that top umbrella.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sure. And you listening as well, like, what is your one thing? I would love to know in the comments. Let us know your one thing.
Yes. Yeah, leave us, drop that. And so one of the things I know you guys have in common is you have a spiritual side. I know you mentioned Louise Hay.
I listen to her every morning. It's like as I'm still waking up and I got my coffee going, I'm not quite awake. I've always been I don't know what it is about that woman's voice. Like, I just want to hug her every time. She just wakes me up. I don't know. I love music.
So how are you able to, like, obviously, like, I don't know, just like ask this, like, kind of for both of you, is like being able to really get grips with your like spiritual side and then still be like business, right? Like, because I feel like some people have that spiritual side of them, and it gets, they get out of that, like being able to have a business and be like really in performance, and it becomes like
too airy-fairy and
yeah.
not enough grounding.
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, that is one thing with spiritual people. They are not grounded as such a lot of the time. They are quite airy. And when I work with coaches, they're probably some of the hardest people to bring down to earth and say, you've got to add some structure to your business. Oh, I don't like structure. I like just to get up in the morning and do whatever I want to do. Well, you can't build your business if you just act on what you feel like. So there is that discipline to it as well. So, I mean, Holly, you're probably the same. You know, we balance it out. So we're not jumping too much into one side. So it is, you know, you got to remember, I ran a big business before, so I know how to put a business together. And it is that idea of having some sense of discipline of what needs to be done, but then also allowing that time for you. So the whole hustle and grind thing, that just doesn't appeal to me. I can't do that. Like Holly and I were talking earlier on, you know, I don't start work till noon, you know, to get me out of bed any earlier than that is really hard. And, you know, I'll do maybe 4 or 5 hours in the afternoon, and then I'm back out with the horses again and I'm done for the day. So it's about having that beautiful, delicious quality to the work that you're doing and delegating. So obviously I'm not going to get a lot of stuff done in possibly, you know, 4 hours a day. But when you get smart at this, you do. But if you can learn to have a nice little team around you as your business grows, I know in the early days that's not so easy. But as your business grows, get a nice team around you. And of course, they're taking care of a lot of the cool stuff for you as well. So that's kind of how I manage my business and work it out so that I can be both. And I don't think we need to be afraid to show our spiritual side as well, because I work best with those people who have got that to them.
That's awesome.
I do too.
Yeah.
How about this? Because, and this has came up, is like I'm a little more aggressive, right? And because I've been in sales forever. I'm very kind of straightforward. I holding people accountable and like that stuff. I love like that. That's really big with me. You know, we go through integrity and that stuff. And so sometimes the people that are attracted to her is turned off by me.
Mm.
And so when we're coming up with like, and we love work, I love working with people that are empowering others. And, you know, I love working with spiritual people. It's like, I have a spiritual side too. And I talk about it here and there. I'm not quite as as into it as she is, but like I find this, like there's been people in our coaching that's like, I'm only here really for Holly because they're turned off by my, it's whatever. It's like, I'm just a little aggressive for their taste. And like, and so how would you balance that?
What are you asking there, Chad?
How would you balance that if you had a partner like with us? I guess I'm asking for some like opinion on your part on like how we deal with that, and like how do I like I'll be straight with it, like who I am is who I am, and I have like, you know,
I think we do a great job.
I think we do too, but I don't want to like scare off like half of our clients.
I think you're working as a team, so it's balanced out, to be honest, between the two of you. And, you know, I mean, I'm not sure what Holly's like in terms of chasing up sales or chasing up prospects and that, but maybe that's the part that you take care of. And that's what makes the business work, because if it was left to Holly, maybe she wouldn't do as great a job at that as you. So, you know, you'll find that it's probably working absolutely perfectly. And the spiritual people who are probably attracted to Holly, I'm wondering if the people that are attracted to you, Chad, don't really get the Holly side of things at times.
Mm-hmm.
So between the two of you, you serve your people quite well. If I was to say to you with the spiritual people, I guess it's tapping into who they are, and maybe if you're coming across as too aggressive just for that set, then you just pull back a little bit and let Holly take care of that set while you take care of the other set. That's the only way I could see. To me,
that's great.
Great balance.
Yeah, I believe that we have a perfect synergy in that where I'm not my strengths are his strengths, and where his strengths maybe not, and vice versa, right? So I think we have a great synergy that we can really serve people at a super level. Because some people might need, and how I take that too, is some people need, you know, if they're turned off by one of us, you know, our shadow self and that reflection, well, where is that making you uncomfortable, and what can we learn from that uncomfortableness? Right?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, if they're there for Holly, then that's great, but they're still going to learn from you, Chad. And that's the important thing. They might not just love you as much.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. So, Vanessa, we have two standard questions. One is, what is your next level, and what's your vision for the next, say, you know, even 5 years? What's that like? What does your business look like in 5 years? Like, how are you? I know you live out in the nowhere. Do you do events? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, I don't for that reason. Because if anyone knows me, they know that one, I'm a total introvert, and secondly, an absolute hermit. So to get me even out off my country property and away from my animals is really, really hard. So in the early days, I did a bit of the national tour stuff and all that sort of stuff, and I didn't really enjoy it. So it's not really one of my avenues, is doing the events. If someone invites me to go somewhere lovely, to speak or hold a retreat or something like that, I'll probably be there. But I only choose maybe 1 or 2, 3 a year to actually go to. So for me, the whole idea is to expand mine even more online. So when I look at people, say, for example, you know, like an Amy Porterfield type business model, where I'm the front of it and there's a lot of the other stuff being taken care of, but I'm the front. And that's kind of where I want to see myself. So less hands-on in the business, but still delivering amazing content, courses, programs for coaches and change makers. So that's where I really want to take it. So not far off what I'm doing already, but having a greater amount of people coming through. That's how I see it.
Just basically just expanding on everything you're doing now, and just
more volume. Yeah, more volume.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
So for me, getting out and doing the whole, you know, and I love the speakers who love to do it. You know, I've got quite a lot that I work with, and they love it. They love the travel and going from place to place to place. But my lifestyle just doesn't allow it. And I'm really happy just being at home with doing my wildlife caring and my animals. And that's another reason why I want the business to scale up to reaching more and more people with volume, so that I can still stay at home here and do my wildlife caring, because a lot of my income goes towards that. So it's cool. That way. So the more income we make, the more we can change the world in the way that we want to.
Yeah.
So when you said wildlife caring, I just wanted to what kind of wildlife are you working with?
I know you have horses. I've seen some of your horses, and I love horses. I love nature, and I was taking a little peek through your profile. I'm like, gosh, we really do have a lot in common. It's crazy.
Yeah, wildlife caring. So obviously Australian wildlife. So at the moment I've got kangaroos here. I've had possums and gliders. I've got Australian birds like a galah. So if anyone hears a squawk in the background, it's because I do have a galah right here in here. She's got a broken wing. So she has a broken wing. So she's inside because it's incredibly cold today. And I think they're talking snow tonight, which is, pretty unusual for us, but it's getting cold. So she's inside where it's nice and warm. So mainly it's that. And wombats, you know. I haven't had a koala though.
No?
No.
Hopefully one
You know,
wanders on the property.
it's kind of sad. There's not, even though koalas are an iconic Australian animal, there's not a great deal of them actually left, and they're only in small pockets. It's really sad. And where I live, there are no actual koalas. We are really kangaroo land where I live, so I get a mass of kangaroos coming through.
That's awesome.
That is super cool. You kind of hit on something that I just want to point out is a lot of times people think success is like going, especially like the laptop lifestyle, is traveling everywhere and speaking and doing all of this stuff, but that's not ultimately what success is. Success, what I'm hearing from you, is being able to do whatever, like for you, is to be at home, it's to take care of nature and be with your animals and your family, and that's the most successful life that you can live. So I just wanted to point that out because I think that's a big thing online, especially.
Yeah, success is very individualized, and that, you know, that kind of lifestyle doesn't appeal to me, but I understand those who it does because it's fabulous. But for someone like me and the other people like me, you know, and because of that reason, I actually draw quite a few of the people that don't actually want that lifestyle. You know, they want that more quieter, but be able to make impact and influence online and reach more people, but not have to do the whole world tour thing.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a almost, and I was like thinking for headlines for this even podcast, it's like success, like massive success as an introvert. Like, I don't think that, like, literally there's like this stereotype that the person that has wild success online is the person that's super extroverted, that's super out there and wants to do speaking to her and wants to do everything. And the fact that you've completely like turned that one upside down, right?
Yeah, but it was hard work. So when I first started out, to actually, as an introvert and a complete hermit, to actually put myself online in the very beginning was massive work. I had to get coaching around it. So sometimes for us introverts, we just have to go the bit of an extra mile to start to get comfortable with it and then start to get good at it. But there's certainly, I always say, introverts, some of your big names out there are actually introverts. Marie Forleo, for an example, is an introvert. And so after she does her stuff, you know, she looks quite, but she apparently has to have quite a bit of downtime between showing up. And I'm the same. If I get asked to go and speak at an event, I'm going to need a whole week afterwards to to calm down from it.
Yep, I understand that completely. And that was something like, and I think it's important, I like that we're going on to this topic of introverts, because I like to say I am not an extrovert, but I wouldn't say full flow. I'm kind of like I'm ambivert. I'm kind of a little bit in between. And it's almost like introverts, and I don't know if I don't want to speak for everyone, but sometimes they feel like they have to be someone that they're not. And that's how that they're going to gain attention and attraction, is if they're like, oh, look at me, I'm such a people person, and like I love it. And then meanwhile, it's like absolutely exhausting for them. And by the end of it, they're like, don't talk to me. I love you, but don't talk to me for like a few days. I'm just going to go into my room, or and so I think that's important to know.
Yeah. And I think when I go, you know, as I say, I go overseas and you do the whole speaking thing, and then everyone else is like, let's all go out for dinner afterwards and drinks. I'm like, yeah, right. No, I'm going back to my room.
Fun.
Peace. Send me pictures.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do you have any tips for maybe someone else is listening to this and they're like, yeah, I'm an introvert. I want to make massive impact, but I'm not sure how I can how do I do that? Do you have
it's quite, Holly, I reckon it's quite a step-by-step process. So if you can, one of the things I had to work on first, you know, when I first started out, I couldn't even go into a network meeting, you know, just a small network meeting. I couldn't even go in. And when I first attended my coach training classes as a new coach, you know, being trained, there was about 30 new people in the room, and I couldn't even walk in the room. And I'm the one that's always right at the back of the room or hugging the walls. So I actually had to get a bit of coaching around that. So I'm not saying everyone has to do that. You know, sometimes it's just doing it little by little by little. I get quite a few starting with me and it's really scary for them. So we'll just do a little step. Okay, today, not in my big group, but I have a very small little closed group, and they can go in there and do lives in that and practice to the little small audience of each other. There's about 15 of them in there at the moment. So let's just do it step by step. And then the next step, they have to go out and do it to their page, and they might only have 200 people at that time on their page. So go out and do it there. And then I'll push them to do one in my group, which they have kittens about, because they think 17,000 people, but they don't realize 17,000 people are not actually going to be watching at the same time or even see it. But it's those numbers that frighten them. So step by step by step. And I think confidence grows the more you step out of your comfort zone. Your confidence will grow.
I love that. Step by step and keep building your confidence, because you're right, it does.
And if I could just add, having a big why as well. So I always had a big why. I did not want to go and have to work for someone else. So I wanted to make sure I was able to bring in the money that enabled me to stay home and fund my wildlife caring and my animal funding. So I think you've got to have a big why, because that pushes you past some of these fears as well. It's like, well, if I let this fear get me, I'm going to have to go and work 9 to 5, and then I won't be able to be at home doing my wildlife caring. So having a good why, whether it's, something you're aiming for financially, or whether it's family or whatever, but having that big why and really tapping into that every time the fear hits is what's going to help as well.
That's awesome. No, your turn.
So something that I always like to ask everybody, because this journey, we're all on a journey when we go online, whether we've been online for 5 years, whether we're just getting started out, we're on a journey. And the journey, everyone wants to talk about the good stuff and the happy-go-lucky stuff and the look at my wins and look at my successes and yay this and, look at me, woo. But what people don't see is the stuff underneath it, the stuff that we had to go through to get to that point. So I always like to ask, this is my favorite question, is what was something like your biggest failure, your biggest letdown that you had online, and then how were you able to overcome that so it worked for you?
Probably once doing a launch for a product that did really well the first time I launched it. And then the second time we went to run it the next year, got hardly anything to it. So that was really disappointing. And you've got to go back and look at, well, what happened? And it was strange because it did so well the first time. But climates always change. And I think you've got to be constantly updating and looking at your products and what people actually want as well. So I always remember that, thinking when I first put it out, oh, this is a hit, everyone wants it. And but I realized afterwards what I didn't do. I didn't share all the successes and the wins back then of the people that were going through the program at the time. So nobody really kind of was interested in the program, even though they were when it was first up. So now I'm much better at sharing the wins of the people who are going through the stuff, so that it helps to build that buzz. So that was one that was quite work.
But it was good, and I like to bring these up only because there's always something. I truly believe that when you're at like a low or at your bottom, it's a really powerful place for you to be, because it's an opportunity. Like there's only one step, like there's only one way to go from there, right? And you can get your most powerful lessons down there. And it sounds like, okay, got it. So when you have launches, you have to be showing people like that, social proof. People win when they work with you, and they get results by working with you.
Yeah, and I see, that was my own self as well. Being such an introvert back in those days, I felt that it was egotistical or not right to be showing off and bragging about all my wins through my clients' wins. Mm-hmm. So that was my own internal stuff, because I thought it was yucky, but I realized it was kind of essential. To do it in a nice way. We don't want to do it in the yucky way, but to do it in a nice way, it's essential to share the wins that your people who are going through your programs and that are having.
Yeah, I think that's really important. That's something that I've gone through myself too, and ultimately the growth that I've had in that is like taking responsibility. Is not just like taking responsibility for like all the yucky stuff that happens, but also the successful things that you do. And so really taking ownership of what you do like be proud of what you do. For the longest time, I had the hardest time sharing the wins that I had in my life because I wanted to raise everybody else up. Like, don't worry about what I've done. Like, yeah, I've worked with multimillionaires. I've run their companies. Yeah, that's great. But what do you do? And I'm like focusing on everyone else. And then what ended up happening over time is I wasn't sharing all of my wins, that I kind of went here and, you know, we kind of lost momentum because I wasn't fully out there because I didn't want to be that like ego, look at me, yay, I'm winning all the time. I wanted everyone else to win and highlight them instead.
That was me. That is exactly the same story. It's the same situation. So yeah. And you know, even now when you sort of, even then it's like, oh, well, I worked with Australian celebrities and Olympic athletes. It's a bit like, you know, there's still that hesitation in me to say it, but I just go, no, that's part of my story. You know, I have, and I loved working with them and we did great stuff and it's part of my story, but I still feel a little bit of that internal resistance about actually saying that.
Yeah, Holly actually consulted on a funnel for, well, she worked for a guy that was basically ran his whole company, all his content, the whole deal. He was a platinum partner on Grant Cardone. And so Grant actually came to this guy asking help for a funnel. And Holly consulted on it and went on to do
me and was like, hey, what would you do with this?
And it went on to do millions of dollars. And she had the hardest time to sharing that, like for the longest, like nobody knew that. Like we had a poll, like we actually hired a coach to help us put our stories together because it was really challenging to sell an old story, a new story all together. And he's like, well, tell me some of the things you've done. And like, well, I worked blah, blah. And that got yanked out somehow. And like, finally.
And this guy has totally helped me too. Because he's like, you what? Hold up. I have no problem sharing that.
I'm her agent.
Yes.
So I promote the crap out of her, and so it's no problem for me.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this now and it's something that you've gone through, like it's normal. And so what are some things that you could share with someone, like, you know, take ownership of your greatness and what you do? How can someone do that? How ways have you been able to do that? Of really taking ownership and just getting over all that resistance and that stuff and just this is what I am. This is my story.
Yeah, as I said, it's been step by step. It hasn't been, I didn't just wake up one day and go, you know, woo. I think one of the steps for me as well that really helped was having that one thing idea. You know, I'm just going to work with coaches now, and I'm just going to make sure that they get themselves out there and get themselves known. And the confirmation that that was going to be a hit was the fact I opened up the group for it, and then, you know, just all these coaches just jumped into it. I didn't have to do any advertising or anything. So that became a confirmation that I was on the right track. So that in itself was boosting. But then what happened was, for the first couple of years with that group, a lot of people didn't even know who the creator of that group was. Because I was hiding behind the scenes. I didn't even have my face up on my banner or anything. So I was there basically playing admin. And I had to learn, because one day someone said to me, oh, you're the creator of that group? I didn't even know who had that group. And I thought, okay, time to step out in the spotlight myself here. So that was, you know, as I said, you live and you learn. And that was, okay, my face is going up on the banner and my face is going on the welcome message. And that, so I think sometimes you're going to get little messages from the universe to say, hey, you got to do something here, as long as you're open to listening them. And that particular little, just off the cuff comment really made a change for me as well in how I was showing up just in that group alone.
It's really
that was my own group.
It's really ironic that the person that has the spotlight, or that is creating the spotlight for others, had an issue with being in the spotlight.
Yes, I know. And that's why I love it, though, in the sense that, you know, well, if I can step out in the spotlight and do this stuff, you certainly can too, because I would have been one of the worst people to get out and try and do this. So, yeah, I mean, you know, even being able to speak in front of people, I wouldn't have been able to do this when I first started out. No way. But you get used to it the more that you do it.
Yeah, and that it really shows power of, being able to work with. That's why I love coaches, is because each of us have our own skill sets, and each of us have a heart to really impact other people. And when we can come together and work with each other to really raise each other up, that's how we're going to really make a change in the world. So I absolutely honor and appreciate everything that you do and everything that you do for your clients. But where can people go to learn more about you and get into your world? And is that you?
Two great places. First one is probably pop into the group. It's Coaches, Changemakers, Step into the Spotlight. It's pretty easy to find. I believe you just typed in coaches and it comes up fairly early. And if you want to find out a little bit more about me, you can also head to my website, which is vanessatalbot.com. Very simple.
Very simple.
Perfect.
Vanessa, you are an absolute pleasure. I have a feeling that we could sit over like tea and talk for hours. And I really, really honor and thank you. Do you have any last words, anyone listening, that you want to close off with?
What I just want to tell all the coaches is that if you feel that you're not attracting clients, I know that you've got to do all the back end stuff, but also think about the fact that if nobody knows who you are and what you can do to them, they simply can't hire you. So take the steps to actually get out, build yourself an audience and get visible, because that's going to make the difference as well. And then because all the great stuff you guys do become part of this entire beautiful picture that gets us out there and creates our audience, builds our impact, influence, and of course brings us in an abundance of clients as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Totally. I love it. Vanessa, thank you. Listeners, thank you for another episode of Informed for Profits, and we will see you next time.
Bye.